I'm Stila Webb.
And I'm Shuvom.
I'm going to write my first fiction novel this year.
And I'm going to film it.
And we're going to release one video each week.
And if you keep up with Stila's word count, by the end of 2017, you'll have...
What are you preparing? You're always preparing. Just go.
Let's go.
Alright, 10%ers, we're back. And today we're talking about decluttering that book.
So far we've gone through the book as a whole, we've edited chapters and scenes and paragraphs and lines, and today we're going to go word by word and start picking out extraneous things that don't need to be in your book.
Yeah. They even have a name.
Oh god, not that one.
Pleonasms. A pleonasm is any word that can be taken out of your sentence, and the sentence still has the same meaning.
Oh yeah, pleonasm. Okay.
For example, we could have called this video Declutter That, and you guys would have still understood what the video was about.
You're adorable.
We could have even called this video Declutter, and you guys would have still understood what this video is about.
So what's wrong with these extra words in this clutter? As we've said many times, clarity is king, and anytime you're adding a bunch of extra words, your brain's doing all of this computing to keep everything straight, and it just adds clutter and takes away from the clarity of the narration you're trying to convey.
Yeah, it makes things longer and just, less powerful. For example, the phrase, he thought to himself. Why not just make it, he thought? Or the phrase, he nodded his head. Just put, he nodded. He's not going to nod anything else.
He nodded his foot.
We're going to pull from a lot of blog posts this time. This is from C.S. Larkin, Live, Write, Thrive. And we're going to keep linking to other blog posts.
That is particularly pernicious.
Ooh.
That is such an issue, is well known in the writing community. The single that's are bad, but the double that's, oh, horrifying. Take them out every time.
I try to get rid of that kind of stuff anytime I see it. You know, anytime you run into something like that, you have to take it out.
I'm pretty bad about putting that in there. I have to go through and take those out.
Alright, that makes it better.
That makes it so much better.
Alright, now that you can see that, you have to realize that putting that many that's in a sentence just makes it all that harder to understand what's going on with that.
Yeah.
Most of the time you can take every that out of your sentence, and the sentence is perfectly fine. I find the same thing with the word very. I pretty much find every time I put very in a sentence, it makes it weaker, not stronger. Like, the rain came down very hard, versus the rain came down very, very hard. Or the rain came down very, very, very hard. Like, every very you add makes it weaker. Why can't you just say...
It poured.
Right? That captures it without putting a very, very, very. So, I also take out most varies.
Really follows the exact same rules. You almost never need a really. Really is really bad. So stay really far away from it.
She was really, really fast. That car was really fast. Right?
She ran really fast. No, she sprinted.
Yeah.
She booked.
That car...
She hauled ass.
That car smoked around the corner. Yeah, so no really.
Screamed around the corner. Drifted around the corner. Tokyo style. There are some other phrases, repetitious clauses that come in. I remember last week we mentioned I dropped the gun and I picked the gun up off the ground. Like, that's an extraneous detail that doesn't need to be there. Those things also count, but these words in particular are very bad.
Yeah, and as you're doing your third or fourth draft of your book, you should be maybe fourth or fifth by now. Look for little stuff like this, especially in your power scenes. It just makes things better.
Making things possessive often helps.
Ooh,
that gets rid of the problem.
Give an example.
The wheels of the skateboard instead of the skateboard's wheels.
Yeah, it's shorter, more powerful. I find myself doing that a lot.
So possessives are great. Sometimes you have to reword it just a little bit to get rid of those extraneous words, but it almost always makes it better. And we're specifically talking about narration in this instance. You can get away with putting these extraneous words into dialogue a little bit more, especially if you're doing it to make a particular character sound a certain way, and that's just the way they talk. That's okay. First-person narration can get away with it a little bit more because, again, you're using that character's voice to tell you the story. But in third-person narration, you want to try to get rid of these as much as possible.
Well, even in first-person narration, you don't want to take up a lot of stuff.
No,
right?
you can have a little bit of it.
So here's something that just happened just in my book, just now. I had the sentence, Juan called over his radio to the technician inside. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute, why don't I just say Juan radioed to the technician inside, right? They're in spacesuits, they're in space. People know they aren't talking. We've already established they're radioing
You don't
back
even
and
need
forth.
that too. You can just say Juan radioed the technician inside.
Are you editing
I'm
my
done.
Are you editing my edit?
I'm out. Mic dropped.
So stuff like that is, I mean, Juan called over his radio to the technician inside is a sentence I see I see sentences like that all the time in normal military sci-fi. And it just drives me batty, because if you take that out, you can make things travel so much faster, and the whole book could be tighter.
And it's better for the experience of the reader to pull this extraneous stuff out. It's just using RAM to keep track of words you don't need the reader to use.
Yeah.
Use that on the experience, not the words. Guess what?
Side quest.
Pro tip.
No, this is a side quest.
Aww!
Cut that pro tip animation off. This is side quest animation.
Alright, side quest time.
So, this came from a video game podcast that you don't have to listen to, so we're not going to link it. But, they had...
Fuck those guys.
Screw those guys. But it had 3 rules for really good video games. And as I was listening to them, I thought those rules really apply well for books as well. When Stila mentioned experience, we're going to keep those rules in mind. So here are the 3 rules. We're going to keep them in mind as we go forward. I might have a whole episode about this. The first rule is, great books are read, not written.
Ooh.
So, no matter what you think the book's going to be about when you're writing it, after you're done, read it like a reader, have your beta people read it, and it'll totally change. You know, you have to add things, tighten them, cut out entire characters. Great books, for example, romances.
Yeah.
Every romance thinks it's great to have a really interesting A-plot of the man trying to save his company, or the woman's like trying to get that big promotion, or make the big presentation to the Blooderson account, or whatever.
The Blooderson?
I'm trying to think of a name.
Blooderson.
Peterson account? She's trying to win the Peterson account. So every romance is a thing where she's trying to win the Peterson account while still fixing her love life. But as I've watched Stila read romances, she always flips past every page that has the Peterson account stuff.
I am Mr. Blooderson. I'd like to open an account.
You're only making your own video longer. You're just making it harder on you to edit.
Sorry. But Blooderson, come on!
Do you have anything interesting to add to this discussion?
No.
I'm gonna replace you with a puppet. Okay, the second rule is...
Oh, come on, man!
No, you're replaced with a puppet until you stop laughing. So the second rule is keep it simple. Doing something really well takes time. So you want to have all these... You want to have all these intricate plot threads that are interweaving and going, and these really complex scenes where 5 things are happening. Maybe just keep it simple. I actually do this a lot, Stila, with my comedy. Like, a joke scene should have just one joke going through it, or maybe a couple jokes, but one at a time. And keep it simple. But the last one is what Stila, my wife, was talking about before. Define the experience, not the plot points. So whenever we ask people to tell us what their book was about, they always say, oh, it's a girl and she's the last of her race and she has magic powers and she has to go to a mountain where a witch lives. Those are all plot points. Define instead the experience that you want the reader to have.
Adventure!
Yeah. This is actually going a lot better with you as a puppet. The experience is, I want the... So the third one is, define the experience, not a list of plot points. In that fantasy novel, you want the readers to feel like they're going to a magical world, and they want to crest that mountain and see the great majesty and like see the wonders of the fantasy world. You want that experience.
Adventure!
Exactly. Don't worry about the plot points so much. So this ties into what we were talking about before.
The plot points can be simple as long as it's immersive and interesting.
Okay, puppet. You're even worse than Stila. Alright, what were you saying?
So it's saying filler words, all that extraneous stuff, you don't want your readers to be swimming through all these extra words. You want them to be swimming through the experience of your book.
Yeah.
Which brings us to filter words.
No. Which brings us to award-winning author Jim Butcher. This is my first time reading a real Jim Butcher. And he seems to have a rule that whenever anyone says anything, his publisher makes him put a dialogue attribution to it. I'm sorry, Molly said. I'm sorry. Get your seatbelts on, comma, Murphy barked. Murphy began accelerating. Why couldn't that just be, Murphy began accelerating, period. Get your seatbelts on! Right? Then you know who said it.
Yeah.
And it seems like a little ticky-tack thing, but when you read page after page after page of people talking, and every single dialogue attribution has, he said, she barked, he leapt, she flummoxed, whatever, it really gets exhausting after a while.
It's the same problem I have with Scalzi. He puts he or she said at the end of every single line of dialogue. Oh my God, I want to hang myself. It doesn't matter if it's in a paragraph. It doesn't matter if there are only two people and they're talking back and forth. It's a he said, she said, he said, she said, he said, she said. Oh my God, burn the book.
Yeah. I think that's got to be a rule that their publishers are setting on them. Their editors are saying we have to put, that has to be, because it's written like for a kind of a...
Yeah. People are too stupid. You gotta tell them who's talking.
Yeah, they think they're writing it for a wider audience, but they're really just annoying people.
Yeah.
What I try to do in Infinity Squad 3, I have the scene I wrote where I have three people talking, and I have a long set of...
Squirrel fur.
I have a long back and forth where two main characters are talking. You know it's the main characters talking because of what they're talking about. And the third unnecessary person, which we talked about in our comedy episode, the third unnecessary person breaks in. You know it's the third person because of the wacky stuff they say, the way they say it. So you don't have to put dialogue tags after every single one if you do it right.
I play it safe and I do it every third one usually. Even if it's just two people, it'll be like, blah blah blah, he said, why would you do that? That's what I need to do. Do you really need to do that? Yes.
Or
You know, he emphasized or something. Just,
You can do a thing like she sipped a cup of coffee. I agree. And then you
Yeah.
know the I agree is the person who just drank the
right,
coffee.
that's another way of skipping it, but yeah.
You can do that a little bit, but if you really want to be bold, make the words people say obvious to who said it. You know, one person's trying to get them to close the bank. One person's trying to get them to keep it open. It should be obvious who's saying what.
Yeah, sometimes you can do that.
So, yeah, again, if you want to get really bold and really expect a lot from your audience, take that stuff out.
Yep, just like we said, in dialogue.
Yeah.
See our episode. Link down below.
It's all tying together. It's all tying together.
It's like it's one big unit, like a single entity, like maybe a book, one big story that's like all tied together, that's been crafted and woven very carefully over huge amounts of time and thought about and combed over, and we've picked out all the little bad threads, and it's like a tapestry.
It is like a tapestry.
It's like a tapestry. We're on to filter words. Similar idea to filler words, but a lot sneakier. A filter word is a word that separates the reader from the action that's happening or from the experience itself. They look like they're necessary, but they're really not.
Yeah. Don't get these confused with filler words, which is why I didn't want them in this episode, but still insisted.
Oh, did I call them filler words?
No.
I called them clutter.
But see, even the fact that you can't tell means they're too close. Alright, what is a filter word Stila Tiberius Webb?
These are all the phrases that are he thought, he felt, she, tasted, she smelled, she saw. So let's read an example. Sarah felt a sinking feeling as she realized she'd forgotten her purse back at the cafe across the street. She saw cars filing past, their bumpers end to end. She heard the impatient honk of horns and wondered how she could quickly cross the busy road before someone took off with her bag. But the traffic seemed impenetrable, and she decided to run to the intersection at the end of the block.
Okay. So it seems like
fine.
all those words should be there. Yeah. Sarah, you're third person. How do we know what Sarah feels? Sarah felt a sinking feeling. Like, it seems like all they should be there. But what if we start taking out these filter words like this?
Sarah's stomach sank.
So, yeah, it's like a visceral feeling that implies...
That she felt it.
Yeah.
Well, we know she felt it because she just experienced it.
Yeah, and so instead of she realized she's forgotten her purse, how about...
Her purse. She'd forgotten it back at the cafe across the street.
Yeah, she realized it in real time. We don't need that filter between us and her realizing it. How about those cars? Did she see the cars?
Nope, the cars just filed past, their bumpers end to end.
And how about the honk of horns? Did she hear the honk of horns?
Horns honked impatiently. Could she make it across the road before someone took off with her bag? She ran past the impenetrable stream of traffic toward the intersection at the end of the block.
Yeah. So, filter words are a small subset of filler words that are more insidious. You may not even know they're there, but if you look at your paragraphs that way, you can see there's a distance between us and the action.
So when you start pulling those out and you force yourself to describe the experience without telegraphing what kind of experience, it really forces the reader to get into that experience and really experience it.
Makes it more experiential. So that was from a blog, Write It Sideways, by Susanna Windsor Freeman. Probably could lose the Windsor, I think.
So this week, go through some of your stuff, especially your first chapter. Your first chapter is vital. And start finding all of these filler words, all this word clutter, and these filter words, and start taking them out and build stronger prose.
Yeah, you'll really be so... I talk about this in the world building episode. Again,
Weaving it all together.
I talk about this in the world building episode. You'll be surprised how much stuff you can take out and people still get the exact sense of what's going on. It's actually better if you take stuff out and let the reader imagine. Maybe this is the homework. Take a page or two you like and cut it to the bone. Cut it as much as you can. Take out all the dialogue tags, take out all the filler and filter words, and then give it to a reader and see if they still get the gist of what's going on.
Yeah, see how good they are at it.
Yeah. Well, and how good you are at cutting.
Right, how good you are at cutting and how good you are at conveying what you want with the words that you've left behind.
Yeah. The result may surprise you. And until then, get cutting.
Weaving it all together, yeah.
We're weaving it all together.
Weaving it all together.
Okay, that's a better ending.